there, guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Crafty Kathy, and I'm so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. Every time when the seasons change or when a holiday comes around, I love to do DIY decor for my son and daughter-in-law's house. Really, it's for the grandbabies, but she likes to decorate her house in kind of neutral colors, nothing wild or gaudy, and she doesn't like to have a whole bunch of like holiday stuff sitting out. So what I normally do is just run to the dollar store, I grab a few staple pieces, and I make it all match and all neutral and all beautiful. So that way when you walk into her living room, you get that feeling of, oh, spring is sprung, without having like bunny butts stuck all in your face as soon as you walk in the door. But you still know that it's decorated. So I thought that would be a really fun video. I figured a lot of you guys might be in that same boat. You want to put out a few pieces, but you don't want to go overboard. So I'm going to show you how to make everything match and look good, and it was such a fun video to make. But you guys know that I can talk all day, so let's just get on into it. The first thing I wanted to do was show you guys everything that we're going to be working on. This dough bowl came from Dollar General, and so did these little wooden bunnies. And I got these eggs last year from the Dollar General. I don't know why one is missing, but they do have these again this year because I've seen these. And then we have 2 of these small candles that comes from Dollar Tree. I also have this little blue bunny door hanger or wall sign from Dollar Tree. And then lastly, I have this new style of candle holders from Dollar Tree. Everything needs to match, so I brought everything outside except for the eggs so that I can paint it white. And I, of course, am going to use the Rust-Oleum 2 times in the Ultra Matte White. This is my favorite spray paint, and it's also one of the cheaper types of spray paint. Now, I did bring the dough bowl inside because I realized it's going to be so much better looking if I use the DIY clay-based paint on it. I am going to use the color beadboard, which is a beautiful white color, and I'm just going to literally slap the paint on there. I realized after I got the first coat on there that some of the brown tannins had came through. Anytime when you are painting something that's made of wood and you're going to paint it a lighter color, it's best to go ahead and put some shellac on there, because if you don't, you run the possibility of the wood tannins coming through. And all that is see these brown stripes that are basically like stripes where the wood tannins have popped back through. And we don't want that. So what you're going to do is grab some shellac, and I like this spray kind. Spray a few thin coats on there and then paint white right back over it. The little bunny had a wooden little sign that said welcome on the front of it, and when I pulled it up, some of that paper came off, and I just kind of sanded it down thinking that I could cover it up. Now, spray paint won't cover it up, so after I spray painted the bunny 1 coat, I realized it would be best to bring it inside and use that DIY paint on it, because not only is it clay-based, it's a thicker paint, but it's also self-leveling, which means it'll level out over that and you won't even see that area anymore. So our first project is going to be the bunny door hanger, and I'm going to grab some Mod Podge. It does not matter what type of Mod Podge you use. This just happens to be the satin. It's the first one that I grabbed, and it was really thick because this Mod Podge is old. But you just put a layer all over your bunny. This is the very first time I have ever used this technique. We are going to decoupage, and we are going to use the iron-on technique. Now, normally I don't do that because I'm always in a hurry. My favorite method of doing any type of decoupage is always going to be the glue stick because it's so easy and simple. However, we're going to be working with napkins. Now, napkins are so thin that it's probably best, I figure, to do it this way because the glue stick will work with the napkins, but I just felt like this would be better. And I left this part in so that you could see I didn't use a very thick coat and I didn't really use a thin coat. I made sure that I got all of the edges really good, but that's why I left this part in so you could kind of see how much I'm using. I also quickly went over those two little wooden bunnies just because I had them sitting out there and they were waiting to be painted also. Now you're just going to let this either air dry or you can dry it with your heat gun. It doesn't matter, but get your Mod Podge completely dry. To do this method, you're going to have to grab you some parchment paper. Do not use wax paper. Grab the parchment paper and you need an iron of some type. What you're going to do is grab your napkin and you put a little bit of Mod Podge on your fingers and it will help you pull those layers off of there. Most napkins have 2 layers, especially if they're a good quality napkin. I found these napkins at Marshall's for only $2.99 for the whole pack. And the way I know if my napkins have no more plies is you can put your hand behind it and literally see through it. We're going to need 2 napkins to cover our bunnies, so while I'm getting these ready, I wanted to point out you don't have to get your napkins somewhere like Marshall's. But in my opinion, you're not going to find napkins this beautiful and this quality for just $2.99. And they're the color scheme that my daughter-in-law likes. And if you're thinking I found these on clearance, I didn't. Marshall's has all kinds of napkins all the time for $2.99. Now my bunny looks a little shiny because it's satin Mod Podge, but I guarantee you it is dry. All you're going to do is take your piece of napkin and you're going to lay it down the way that you are going to put it on your bunny, and then you're just going to take your piece of parchment paper and lay it right over the top, and we are going to iron over this. You want to keep your iron moving and you don't want to like hold it still for too long, and you definitely want to make sure that you get those edges. And this is in real time so you can actually see that I'm going quick enough to where what I'm doing is just allowing the heat from that iron to melt that Mod Podge again and grab onto the napkin. At the same time, you're ironing that napkin down so it's going to be beautiful and seamless, and there will be no wrinkles when you're finished. You just pull up your parchment paper and see, look, it's totally perfect. You make sure your edges are stuck down really well, and here they are. We're going to deal with the edges in a moment, but we're going to do the upper part next. And I sped this one up a little bit because I'm doing the exact same thing. We're just going to cover it with the parchment paper and we're going to iron. We're going to keep the iron moving and we're going to make sure that we get all of those edges really good. After you've got all of your napkin done and you've made sure all your edges are stuck down really good, we're going to get the excess napkin off. All you're going to do is grab a little piece of sandpaper or your little hand sander and just sand the edges off. Everything that I use in these videos, including this little hand sander, I link below. My little bunny is looking so cute, but I do want to put a little ribbon around its neck. I picked this ribbon because she loves the neutral colors. I think I got this one from a thrift store. I'm just going to do a very simple bow that you call a cause bow or figure 8. You just do the little figure 8 with your bow and you just kind of squish it together with your fingers in the middle. And I love to use a really thin zip tie or tie wrap, and you just put it around there and you're not even going to notice that that's what you've got it tied with. Now before you tie it totally tight, make sure that the little bow is exactly how you want it, because you won't be able to maneuver it very much once you tighten up your zip tie. So just tighten that up and cut off the excess. I kind of looked around to see which side the bow would look better on, and I felt like it probably looks better on the left side. So I just put a little bitty bit of glue, it doesn't take much, and it's going to hold my bow. I do want the one side of the bow to stay kind of where it's going outward, and I glued that down just literally a tiny little dab there. And I played with my bow and made sure that I was going to have it exactly the way that I wanted it. And at first I cut this ribbon in dovetail, and I didn't like the way that it looked with this type of ribbon, so I decided to just cut it upward at an angle. I wanted to add just a slight bit of a more neutral color, and I have this little, I guess it's jute rope from Christmas. I had black and white, red and white, and then this tan and white. I just wrapped it around my fingers a few times. I'm going to tie it in the center, and that way I can use it as just kind of like an extra bow in the middle. I really did like that white ribbon that I put down, but I felt like it needed just a touch of something else. And so I'm just going to glue this right in the center and then glue the bottoms to where they will stay matching with the other bow. Then I'm going to finish this little bunny off by grabbing some brown ink and just going all the way around it. Now this is just going to kind of highlight the bunny, and I just like the way that that looks. I think that it kind of outlines it and just brings it together. I don't know, I like that look. And then the last thing that I did was grab a little pom-pom tail that came out of a pack at Dollar Tree and pop it on the bottom.
All of my friends say, girl, you better take care, 'cause that man is trouble, you best beware. And though deep down I know I might be headed for teardrops, now that you got me started, I just can't stop. No, no. 'Cause I love you, baby. I can't let you go, baby. I gotta tell you that I won't.
Now on the second one, we're going to do the exact same thing pretty much that we did on the first one with those two little bunnies. Remember, we already put the Mod Podge on those, so all we have to do is lay our napkins down on each one, and I just used 2 pieces of napkin. I just felt that it would be a lot easier that way, so I laid down my parchment paper and got my iron and did the exact same thing. These were really quick and easy because they're so small. I ironed over them and made sure that the edges were good. Now I'm going to do a different technique instead of just sanding the edges, which I probably could have sanded the edges, but I like to do this technique where I burn it. Now, if you do this, just use caution and be careful. You do have to move your hands as the flame is going around, and you always want to make sure that you have some way to put this out in case something crazy was to happen. But it's never happened to me before, but it's always best to use caution. Now, I slowed this second one down so you could see as the flame goes around how I move my hands. It does stop whenever it hits that Mod Podge. That's what stops it from going any further. And there was a little bit of like singed edges, and so I just used my little hand sander to get those off, and I'm showing you how it kind of singed the sides a little. So just keep that in mind. All you have to do is paint back over that if that happens to bother you. I'm going to show you the finished result in just a moment, but I do want to quickly do this dough bowl. I'm not going to cover the whole dough bowl, so what I did was just add a little bit of water to my table. I'm going to use a thin paintbrush because I want my edges to be torn. I don't want my edges to be like perfectly shaped like they are up here. I just find that it looks so much better if there's no straight edges when you're decoupaging something like this. So what I did was go around and just wet the edges of my napkin, and that way it's going to tear really easily. Once I got it torn, I grabbed some of the Mod Podge and I'm going to place that in the center of the dough bowl, and then I'm going to go ahead and dry it really quickly. Then once the Mod Podge was dry, I took that piece of napkin and I'm going to place it down in the center. And I'm going to try that same method with this one that we did before, the heat method. And so I knew that this was going to give me a little bit of a challenge because of the shape of it, and not necessarily because of the shape of the bowl, but because of the shape of the iron. The iron is shaped in such a way that it made it a little bit difficult to get around, but I went all the way around it and just took my time and made sure that all of the surfaces were heated correctly so it would stick. Now, I didn't feel like the edges got a really good stick, so I got the idea to basically do the same thing but just in a different way. I'm going to use my heat gun, which is very, very hot, and this little brayer. I got this brayer from Lori over at Milton's Daughter, and you know that's where I get all of my paint and my IOD stuff at too. But I love this brayer that she sent me because it really comes in handy for multiple things. I'm basically doing the same thing, heating it up and using that brayer. Now, the very edges, I was not getting enough glue up under them, so I just grabbed my little glue stick, that's old trusty, and I got it up under the little edges that wasn't sticking, and it stuck down perfectly. And I wanted to cover up those areas around the bunnies where the ash had made it kind of dark in some spots. So I grabbed my wax paste in my favorite bronze color, and I just used my finger and went around most of it. But in the little crevices, I had to use a brush, and I thought that it was so pretty, and I felt that it just went together perfectly with that lighter color of the napkin. I'll show the bunnies in just a moment, but here's the way the dough bowl came out.
Come to the water where you will find peace. Take a step into the river. Get down on your knees. Come to the mountain while taking in the view. You will find that life is greater than you knew. When you go through the storm, I will hold you, keep you warm. When you stay in the night.
The third one that we're going to do is going to be the candles. Now keep in mind that different people do these in different ways, and it does not matter a hill of beans how you do it, as long as you get that same outcome and it looks good and you're happy with it. Now this is the only time that you will see me using a napkin that has straight edges because we want that straight edge, right, to come up to the very tippity top of the candle. And for now, I just leave that excess where it meets in the back, but I do cut that off because it will overlap the napkin underneath it if you don't do that, and it'll look weird. So all you're going to do is take a smaller piece of your parchment paper, and I just add the heat to it because essentially all you're trying to do is heat up that wax so that it will grab onto that napkin. And as soon as it does that, you're good and you're gold. You got it perfect. See, I will heat it up and then rub over it with my finger because it's rubbing that napkin down into the wax. And that's what we want. And then you'll just kind of pull it back every little bit and make sure that it's sticking. Here's where I'm talking about when you get to the back, make sure you cut that off, because remember that napkin is so thin, it's going to look weird if you overlap it. So you want to get it as close as you can, or perfect if you can get it perfect, but it really doesn't matter because that'll be the back of your candle. But see, I'm just getting a bigger piece of parchment paper. I'm heating it up so that the heat is not directly on my fingers, and I'm just rolling it here. And if you roll it, you're doing that same thing and getting that wax to grab on. That was my first candle, and on the second candle, I'm going to show you, this is my favorite, personal favorite way to do it. And some people like to do it this way, some don't. but I always have the best results when I do it this way. And you see, I'm not even using the parchment paper. All I'm doing is heating that wax up, and then I'm using my finger to rub from the middle outward on that candle, and it doesn't have any strange like wrinkles in it. The candle is what I'm talking about, because sometimes you can get that candle too hot and it will make an indentation in it. You know what I'm saying? And it looks weird. So if you do it this way, just heat it for a second and then use your finger and rub it back and forth. And it's not hot, trust me. It's not hot enough to where it would burn you or you would be like, oh my goodness. But of course, just use caution. But to me, it's not hot at all. It's just warm when I run my finger over it. But see how much faster this candle went? And here where the seam is, I'm just heating it up, and I just quickly run my finger across it. I start kind of from the middle and work outward on that candle, because that way you're making sure that you're getting like no wrinkles and just a really good adhesion. But see, this candle is already finished. It took a third of the time that the other one took. It's so much faster. And then I just use my little hand sander to get that excess off. And I love the way these candles turn out like this. I think they're so pretty, and they're literally perfect every time. They're such a simple way to add like a touch of spring or a touch of whatever the season is. And they're just very classy looking. I've heard most people say if you do the napkin on the candle like this, do not use it and light a fire on it. However, you got to be careful with any candle that you burn. But personally, I have burnt these before. You know I'm going to, because if I'm going to do all this work, I'm going to burn that sucker. So I do, and I haven't had any problems, but always use caution and just watch these.
I wanna know, where did we go wrong? Could we ever change this song into something beautiful, like the beauty that we've seen? I'm asking you, lover, why do you have to be so mean?
Now the very last one is the eggs. We could do those with the napkins. However, do you guys remember these transfers that I ordered off of Amazon that I told you about a week or so ago? Now I'm going to leave these linked down below, and they're in my Amazon store. These are so beautiful. I'm so happy with the quality of these transfers. Usually when you get cheap transfers off of Amazon, they crack and they're not good, and I don't like them. Now these are going to be perfect to put on these little eggs. The hardest part is figuring out which pictures you want on there. Now remember, the egg surface is, of course, it's not flat, it's an egg shape, and you've got to have something that's going to be small enough that's going to go on the egg, which that's not the problem. Most of these are small enough. You just have to know how to do the transfer on the surface of the egg to make it look right. For time's sake, I'm just going to show you how I do a few of these because they're all the same. You're just going to cut out the one that you want, peel that backer sheet off, and you find these eggs have seams on them, so you know what's kind of the front and what's the back. You're going to lay your little transfer down where only the middle is sticking. And I really slowed it down here to show you. See, the sides are not stuck at all. I only have it stuck in the middle. And when there's something this small, I prefer to use my fingernail. You can use a credit card. You can use one of those little plastic sticks that they send you in the transfer packs. Or you can even use like a popsicle stick. There's so many different things that you can use to make these stick. But the first thing that I do is start off in the middle, and then I just used my fingernail, and after the middle, I work my way to one side. And after I work my way to that side, I work my way to the other side. And that way I know that it's going to come off of there perfect and it's going to look amazing. This one did have like a tiny little bubble there at the bottom, but I think it's because I kind of pulled it up too fast. And I'm going to show you one more, or maybe two more, just to show you the technique and how easy it is. This pack of transfers comes with the 3 larger ones and then these 2 little smaller ones. Or I say they're smaller, but they're really not smaller. I'm not sure why they put those in different packages. But see, there's 3 of these bigger sheets and then the 2 smaller ones. So I just went through and found the next thing that I'm going to use. And I chose a butterfly. I just took it off of the backing, laid it down, and you see once again I'm starting in the middle and then I work my way outward as I go. The thing about a transfer is once you get the side stuck down, you can kind of start to pull up that backer sheet and it almost is like a sticker. It's already stuck on there and for the most part it will stick. But see how perfect these are? Just make sure when you're finished to rub over the surface to make sure that it's stuck on there really good. The next one that I'm going to use is the one that says Happy Easter. I was a little worried about this one because this one is words and sometimes the words have harder time sticking. I guess just because there's so many little starts and stops. I really don't know. But I did the same technique. I started off in the middle, worked my way to one side and then over to the other side and gently pulled up the backer sheet. If you do it very gently and a piece does not stick, it's very easy to get it to stick. But see how I just used my finger to rub over it and make sure that it was right. I used a lot of the cute little designs with the little chickens and the little bunnies and the sheep. And I hope that you like this one. And I also added the little bunnies in the back so that you could see those too. If you stuck with me through all of today's video, I just want to say thank you so much. I know that it was a little bit of a long one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love for you to do that. We always have room for more, and we would love to have you here. Also, if you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button because it really helps me out on the YouTube algorithm. It will help them to know to push my videos out to other people that may enjoy them. And my videos right now are every Monday and Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm trying to get back on schedule. Just please give me grace, guys. You guys know that I'm going through a mess and I am trying my best, I promise. But I truly do love each and every one of y'all. I'll see you back here next time if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. If you're on a phone or a tablet, did you know that you can just tap on my face right here and subscribe to the channel that way? You sure can. And if you enjoyed this content, here's another one and you can just tap on it and it'll take you right there when this one's finished. God bless you guys and your families.